release may not involve anything as catastrophic as plate shifts or earthquakes or volcanoes or asteroids or anything, and might indeed be restricted to such abstractions as geopolitical. Imagine a situation where we don't live in a republic the way that most people understand a republic. They mouth the word without really knowing what kind of a system we live in. We live in a duopoly. We have two parties. Any other party is essentially a sop to openness.
Yeah.
Okay. It scared both of the parties. The Perot, the sop to openness, did as well as he did. And there were some weird things that went on there, as we all remember.
Oh, yeah.
Those of us old enough. In any event, imagine a situation where the duopoly melts down, where enough of the central players in both parties are shown to be highly corrupt, immoral, wrong-headed, stubborn, stupid, evil individuals, and are hauled to account by the populace in an orange-style, non-violent rebellion. That would give us both the emotional release over a long period of time, as we had show trials and put all these politicians on trial and went through all their crimes and absolved ourselves of all of our sins that were done in our name by these evil individuals and killing people around the planet. And it would also bring in the economic impacts.
True. Now, don't you think, George, that we have
Clif,
reached that level?
I'm sorry?
Don't you think that we've already reached that level?
No.
You mean it's going to get worse?
We have not even begun.
Oh.
The stuff that we have here, there's a lot of stuff that we get that, by the very nature of the fact that we get tons of it, 60 million reads, we simply can't publish. But we have indications here that the stuff that's been released about Abu Ghraib is the G-rated version.
Let's address that for a minute. I find it extremely interesting that it's coming out at this time. And I say that for this reason. It seems that there is enough evidence around that our government was either involved, led, or at least was aware of the coming event of 9/11.
In fact, let me give you explicit linguistic support for that knowledge.
Okay.
There's two words that specifically arose as a result of that incident, lie-hop and my-hop. And it expresses just that confusion. Did they let it happen on purpose, or did they make it happen on purpose?
Okay, good.
Okay, now that says that a huge portion of the planet has come to that conclusion that they invented a word that is stuck.
Interesting. I didn't know that. So that, quite possibly then, what we are talking about is this could be a cover-up. That they're saying, oh, you know, yeah, the FBI really did know at a 1, maybe even 2 years before, and some of his cohorts, and they knew, and blah, blah, blah. I think it's a smokescreen. I think it's something to divert attention away from the fact that this thing had been planned at least going back into the early Clinton years and maybe even later.
It's possible. There's evidence to support in the way in which the government evidence... Okay, history is nothing but conspiracy theories revealed to be true.
Okay.
Basically, that's what it amounts to.
Okay.
A bunch of people get together. Conspiracy, for instance, the word means to conspire, derives from Latin to breathe, spirate.
Yeah,
and it means you all breathe your thoughts together, you all speak together about the same thing. There was another harsher meaning in the Latin, which was that actually you live or die together, right? The one who breathes kills us all. Now, of course, since that time, since we know the Romans, the Byzantines, the Turks, the Ottomans, any group you care to name, have had hundreds of years in developing all their conspiracies, all the way up through the Club of Rome, the papacy, the Medicis, etc.
Right.
You get to the point where you've got to have a little bit jaded view about things and say, certainly there exists the probability of what you're saying being quite true. Now, may or may not matter, may or may not be pertinent to how things work out in the future, but we also know that there are linguistic clues to how rigid organizations such as the government go about doing cover-ups, and they do it just exactly as you described with this layered onion approach.
Yeah, right. You know, a perfect example. Have you ever seen a picture of the plane that crashed into the Pentagon?
No.
There is none.
No, I know. And I've got a friend of mine that was walking, or I won't go into that, but I have some personal knowledge about something that was going on at that particular time.
Okay.
When the helicopter was visible.
That's above it.
Correct.
You got it. That's right. And it was guiding something into it. Dave Van Clist came out.
But there's other evidence, by the way. I mean, just easy factual accounting kind of evidence. Whenever I get stumped on any of this kind of stuff, I turn back to Buckminster Fuller, who always said, go back to the math, right?
Sure.
How many truckloads of airplane parts did they haul away? How many trucks does it take to haul an engine from a 737 on? A standard or a 10-yard dumpster, you're going to need 4 of them to haul the remnants of an engine out.
Wow. And that's one engine.
Correct.
Yeah.
So where are the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trucks hauling stuff out?
Yeah, and then Dave Van Clist has a DVD which is fantastic, and it's 9/11 in plain sight, PLANE, and he just took stuff right from the news, and it showed one of the offices in the Pentagon where the wall was stripped away, which is fine, except on a table right there was a typewriter and a pile of papers. Cliff, the papers weren't disturbed.
Okay, but we've got to be real careful about that kind of stuff, okay?
Okay, sure.
Because strange things do occur in the midst of natural disasters, right? I've been through enough earthquakes to know that you can be in a room with in a Mexican hotel, built of 400-ton blocks that go dancing about wildly in an 8.0 earthquake, and there, sitting up against the wall on a little tiny table, is a cane that's balanced across the table with a vase behind it. Neither one of them fall.
Okay,
so I'm not saying that is not evidence of it, but I'm saying we can't allow ourselves to be deluded by minutiae into making grander...
That's fair.
But it's just as fair to go back and say, where's the inventory of all the hundreds of trucks of aluminum that were hauled away from the airplane?
Right, exactly. Or the other floors and all the just, again, check the math. The area that was blown away, measure that against an airplane and how big an airplane.
Correct.
On and on and on.
Now, let's go back to the other inconsistencies. I mean, if you want, look at the Twin Towers, designed by Mason, using Masonic symbols, using their numbers, using specialized steel that was designed especially for it, the fingers, the way the whole thing was put together. And curiously, when the Windsor building in Spain burned, it was the same manufacturer for the steel.
That's right.
And that steel gets to 3,000 degrees. Now, supposedly, airplane fuel got it to 2,300 degrees. The steel softened, lost all of its structural integrity, and they pancaked. Clump, 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 clump. Well, okay, if that's the best modern engineering can have, I'll never go up in a high-rise. Well, that's an absurd. I have steel around here that I get hotter than 2,300 degrees all the time.
Sure. And just, ask some of your number one engineers, number two, some of your demolition experts. And they say that was one of the most masterful,
clean, precise, exactly.
Yes. I mean, buildings right across the street weren't touched.
Correct.
How about the church? Didn't even have a broken window. And they said, well, that's an act of God. Then good. Then maybe God guided these things down, too.
Right.
So it's... Okay, so that goes back to what we were just talking about. In the runs... Now, let's remind people. You were doing a run in...
we gathered the data in March. If you're talking about the 2001,
yeah, right. Yeah,
we gathered the data in March, and I worked it real slow because I used a different process then throughout the month of June.
And it was like August. I mean,
no, we posted in July. It was like July 12th or something.
Yes, right. And tell people what you posted. I mean,
that we would have a new form of weapon used as an attack against the money center of the globe.
I mean, hello. What else do you have to say?
Well, we had another descriptor, which was a, quote, military/accident, because we didn't have the word terrorism in our lexicon.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
See, also, by the way, let's get back to this thing with NASA.
Yeah.
And way back when. I couldn't find the word terrorism in my 2001 run because why? I didn't have it in the literal, actual lexicon. And so it's really a question of you can't find things you're not looking for. So NASA, by definition, is not looking for alien life at all, and therefore will always be 100% successful, because they'll never find it. But if their mission is to explore space and consider that possibility, why aren't they developing possible patterns for what they might be looking for?
Clif, in the runs, and yes, it's ex post facto now, but did it ever come up that we really never did land on the moon with astronauts?
No, never looked at any of that. Okay. There are, of course, all of those conspiracies and so on, and there's also the conspiracy theories. There's also some evidence to support it with the radiation belts and so on.
Right.
But there, on the other hand, there's much more evidence to support vast quantities of habitation running around on the moon that we're aware of, and that's why we've not been back.
Yeah, and we were told not to come back, or we were told don't try to do it.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think
I believe such communications happen, however, whatever the mechanism is, are being delivered to humans who have deluded themselves that it is worthwhile cooperating with the incorruptible, or incorrigible is actually how it used to be defined in like the Nag Hammadi beings. And they're taking their instructions from people that want to keep us as ignorant slaves. And I believe that slavery in some way involves emotion. They want to generate certain kinds of emotion. This is a particular pet theory. It's one of my screwy theories.
Yeah.
But imagine a situation we've got here. Human beings per se don't really exist. We're composed of cells, which are composed of molecules, which are composed of atoms. Atoms, it turns out, don't even really exist. They're composed of subatomic particles.
Right.
And in fact, anymore, if you still believe the electron rotates around the neutron, you're way back into old century thinking.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And subatomic particles pop up, but basically we're space. Vibrations in a vast quantity of space.
Exactly.
Okay, now we also produce vibrations in the form of these emotions. This is a palpable thing. We can sense tension in the air when you walk into a bank that's being robbed and everybody's freaking out and there's no visible sign. The hair on the back of your neck crawls.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
Think of the situation with Cindy Sheehan. Vast quantities of supportive emotion are going through and to her now from all these people that see her as their spokesperson or have allied with her or whatever. So we've got these waves going around all the time of this emotional potential. Somehow that is involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a matter of fact, science has always said that if you took a human being of an average size and brought all of the matter that composed of that human being together, where every molecule and every atom and everything touched, it would be about the size of a black dot underneath somebody's fingernail.
Right, right. Wouldn't even be dust lint in your sock.
No. So, I mean, it really does show you, are we really significant, or are we deluding ourselves? Which
no,
I think
let's also examine it from another viewpoint,
yeah.
and just on a logical basis, where mind is used as a tool to examine this. What you say is perfectly true. We're mostly empty space. Mm-hmm. But that's also true of everything around us,
that's
the entire material world that we manipulate.
That's right.
And it's also true of the appearance of the entire material universe in which our material world exists.
Mm-hmm.
If we're so insignificant, why does universe support us so well? Why are we allowed to think of ourselves as being so powerful?
Yeah.
In fact, our view is such that we're the most powerful beings around.
That's true.
Okay, so no, I do not buy into the insignificance at all. In fact, I think on a personal level, you could probably say that I subscribe to what Patanjali said, that the material universe is a place where our vibrations drop into experience and learn, and it exists only for us.
The universe only exists for us?
Correct. Now, by us, I mean
all beings.
Conscious minds, not
yes.
humans.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
But conscious mind would even go down so far as to consider earthworms, perhaps, right?
Or leaf.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what Clif Baxter proved. that there is a consciousness and awareness even in a plant. So.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with him.
Now that also would allow certainly nasty little deluded beings that are running around with different forms of mind that wish to impose their own form of control. So, for instance, if one reads deep into what the Illuminati, let's digress for a second, the Illuminati and the Bilderbergers and all these guys are supposedly really interested in this Egyptian mystery school, with a lot of evidence to support that. Problem is, the Egyptian mystery school is a dead end. It runs into a